Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another recap video. So I had quite a few setups this week, as you can see here on my journal. So this is week 3 just here. There's quite a few setups. So I have quite a bit to cover, right? But I'll try to keep it as short and as precise as possible. So as normal, we'll start with GBPAUD. Well, we'll start with the pairs that didn't set up, and then we'll go to the pairs that actually did set up, right? So here on GBPAUD, I was expecting, because we had this break of this trend line here, which was quite impulsive on this candle. I was looking for it to pull just that little bit deeper and maybe retest this longer term trend line and then look for that bounce, right? Instead, it just kind of pulled back straight away, kind of formed this double top situation here, and then we saw that drop, right? So no entries were had on this pair. GBPCAD. So this one kind of played out as expected. We had, when I did analysis, price was around this area. We were looking for either to push higher, come back, retest, and then push on, or second scenario, because of where price was at the point in time, kind of consolidate here and then just have that pullback lower, right? The first of the two scenarios happened, which was here. We had that break above on this candle just here. It did pull back with rejection, but to be fair, the clearer move is this impulsive move, right? And then this slow retracement back, currently kind of rejecting and retesting these highs. So just something to keep eye on maybe for next week. GBPCHF. So this one pulled out as expected as well, but I didn't catch an entry. We had that break of the highs on this candle here, right? Then we had to pull back into the level with this rejection on that wick, and then we had that momentum move. I was not able to catch an entry on this trade, which is unfortunate, but played out as expected. GBPUSD. So we were expecting one of two scenarios on this particular pair. Did analysis around this area because we had these highs. At the time, I was expecting it to either reject that current level and push lower, or break above, retest, and then go for that long position, right? That nice long momentum move. That did happen. We had the nice rejection. We had the break above, but again, I didn't catch an entry on this trade, on this pair. EURNZD. Right, so this also played out as expected. It's not the neatest of setups, right? It's a little bit messy. So depending on, I didn't trade it, but depending on where I would have entered, to be honest, the clearest move is this, right? You had this big wick rejection right here of this lower level, right? And then we had the drop. But inside here, it was a little bit messy, right? So, but no setups were had for me on that pair, but it did play out as expected. USDCHF. This one did not play out as analyzed, so we had the move down that I was looking for, and I said either it would retest this level with rejection or this level with rejection. Didn't do either, right? It just completely disrespected the level and started to push higher. So no entries were had on this pair. USDJPY. So this one, I was expecting price to, I probably didn't update this actually, because this was 2 weeks ago. But what I was looking for, I believe, was price to kind of pull into this level here, show some rejection, and then drop. We did have it respect the trend line together with the zone, and we saw that rejection. So, and it's been in a long-term downtrend, right? It's been selling for a while. So this would have been a valid setup for me. Depending on how it played out, I would have probably entered here. It would have pushed into profit. Probably would have been able to get at least a stops to break even before this massive move back up, right? But truth be told, it started to push higher. And I wasn't able to, I didn't catch an entry on this pair, so no trades were had. AUDCHF. So this one played out again kind of as expected. We got the move I was looking for, but we didn't really get the retracement to my level that we were looking for. Instead, it retraced to this level, these highs here, right? So we had the impulsive move which we were looking for, pulled back to the broken highs, right? And then we had that nice impulsive move. But as I said, I wasn't part of this trade. And last, I believe, is AUDJPY, same sort of deal. So we had price pushing higher. We were at these highs here. We had a nice breakthrough. So expecting it to kind of pull back into this level, which it didn't do. I mean, probably on the lower time frames, you would have probably might have probably seen a retest there. But as I always say, right, I like to see a nice impulsive move, come back, retest, rejection, and then look for longs. But no entries were had. So I'll move on to the trades that actually did set up. So I'll just go to the journal and talk you through it. So the first trade for the week was AUDUSD, right? This was a trade that Nick alerted me to, right? There's a break and retest over H1 level in the direction of the main daily trend. Price showed rejection, hidden divergence spotted on the 5-minute time frame. At the level, secured 50% of the trade at 4.8 R. The rest was stopped at break even, right? So I'll talk through this trade, as well as I also closed off this trade that I was holding from 2 weeks ago, right? I closed off this trade, so I'll just kind of recap both of those, right? For this trade, this was a trade at the time of entry. Cool. So this was the 1 hour zone here, right? We had price break above, come back, retest, showed some rejection, so entered a long position, right? And then this was the trade at the time of closing. Right, so this here says close 30% of the position, but I actually closed 50% of the position. But what I did, when it hit my first TP, I closed 30% of the position here, right? And then when it pushed up, came back, and then it pushed back into my level, right? So it pushed back into the area that I took TP, sorry. I closed off another 20% of the position, right? And then it pushed up and then dropped and took me out at break even, right? So I'll just jump to the charts quickly. AUDUSD. Right, so let's see here. We're on the 15 minutes. Alright, so this was a trade here. This trade here. So that was the analysis, right? Push above, come back, retest, show some rejection. So we had to push above, it came back, it retested with rejection. Scaled out some 30% of the position here. Price pulled lower, pushed nicely into profit, and then came back. And then when it started to reject around this area, that's when I closed off another 20% of the position, right? Did push higher again, but then, you know, it kind of crashed off, right? So that was that trade. And then, as I mentioned, I just closed off that longer term swing that I had going on AUDUSD. This was definitely the best trade of my trading career thus far, right? It closed off in total profit at 39 R, so well, almost 40 R, right? 39.84 R. The reason why I closed the position off is that we had this 1 hour trend line being formed, right? We had initial first touch, second touch, third touch, and then it broke through. When it broke through, it started to reject, right? It started to try and push higher and reject the base of the trend line, right? So I just decided, you know, I was very happy with what I, you know, how the trade played out for me. I was happy with my returns. It's a little bit of a shame because on Friday, you know, you can never really predict when these things are going to happen, right? But we had this nice, strong, ridiculously nice move on Friday. If I held it just for one more day, I'd currently be on 70 R, right? But you know, as I say, you know, you can't really predict when those things would happen, right? So it's a little bit unfortunate, but as I said, it's still the best trade of my career. Highest return on one trade thus far. And you know, I was very happy with the outcome of the trade, right? So I'll just move on to the next trade, which was NZDJPY. There was quite a few trades on NZDJPY, right? So we had this trade here, had another one here, another one here, another one here, another one here. So I'll probably just cover all the NZD trades all at once, right? The first one here, this one was a little bit annoying. So Nick alerted me to the level, right? There's a break and retest of a H1 level in the main trend direction, confluence of the shorter term steep trend line together with the zone. There's a wick off spring in place. The wick off spring is something I've been testing for quite a few months now, and I've started to implement it into my trading, which is why I get these really tight stops. You know, this was a 3 pip stop, this was a 5 pip stop. You know, there's quite a few tight stops in the trades, right? Which is why I'm starting to get these higher risk to reward trades. So anyway, so I entered off with a retest of the spring. As my note says here, the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in trading. Price was nowhere close to my break-even stop loss, and the trade was taken out for a full loss, right? So I'll just talk through this trade individually, and then I'll just scan over the other NZD trades, right? So this was a trade at the time of entry, right? We had this nice 1 hour zone being formed, excuse me, together with this steeper trend line, right? And then, you know, it just showed nice rejection at the level, right? So entered there, and then this is where the trade was stopped out. Right, so you know, you can see here, right? I'll show you on the chart, right? But trade was stopped out at this point. If that didn't happen, you know, the trade would have been a nice 6.4 hour winner. And if I'm not mistaken, it went into a lot more profits than 6 hour, but I would have closed off at 6 hour. So that was NZDJPY, right? So there's a few, you'll see a few trades on here, but I'll just talk you through the first one, which was this trade just here. All right, so for this trade, as I said, right, we had that break above, came back, it retested with rejection. This sort of price action here is that wick or spring I'm talking about, where it cracked beneath the level, but immediately pushes back above, comes back and retests, and then, you know, you look for long positions. So this played out perfectly. And then right on this candle here, this ridiculous candle just here, right? Out of nowhere, I think there was some kind of news release with regards to some sort of COVID cases that were announced in New Zealand. I think there was like 2 or 3 COVID cases that appeared. The price didn't actually move, right? Spreads just went ridiculous. But even if you just look here, my stops wasn't break even. It didn't even come close to my stops, right? I mean, it was close, but it wasn't that close, right? And you know, it not only did it stop me out, which should have been a break-even stop, but it actually took me out for a full loss, which was very annoying, right? But as you could see here, you know, the trade played out. This was my initial TP here, which would have been the previous highs. But I mean, it went into, you know, if I held the position, I don't know, maybe to here, you know, that would have been 16 hour, right? I mean, it moved massively into profit. So that was a little bit annoying. But anyway, these things happen in trading, right? So the next next NZDJPY trade, this was my trade, break and retest of a H1 level, confluence of the H1 zone and trend line together with a 618 fib, right? Price pushed into profit and then reversed before I can put my stops on break even, right? So I'll just show you the entry setup here, then I'll jump to the chart and show you the actual trade, right? So we had this longer term trend line being formed. This was a trade that kind of screwed me over, right? And then we had a nice break above, came back and retested the highs, right? With confluence of the trend line, it was also a nice fib level. So I entered the trade here, right? I'll just jump straight to the chart since we're already on it. H1. So where is it? Okay, here, right? So I entered based off of, as I said, right, the break and the retest showed some rejection, and price, as you can see, right, price moved nicely into profit, right? This is at least about two and a half, maybe even 3 hour into profit. So I would have put my stops on break even, but unfortunately I wasn't around the computer. I was not home at the time. And then, you know, straight away it pushed lower and just took me out for a full loss. This should have never been a full loss. I just wasn't able to manage the trade. But you know, things like this do happen, right? So as you can see here, for this trade, you know, price reversed before my break-even point, but I was happy with the trade regardless of the loss, right? Because I would have been able to manage it correctly. It was a nice valid trade, but like I said, these things just happen, right? And then the last few trades, I've got 3 more entries here on NZDJPY, which I'll just talk through. Right, same old stuff, break and retest over H4 level. In this instance, there were a few H1 rejections on the first retest of the H4 level. Confluence of the trend line, H4 zone, 1 hour 200 EMA. And there's even some hidden bullish divergence happening on the RSI, right? Trade played out nicely, booked 50% of profits at 2 hour and then the rest out at 5 hour, right? So that was this trade here. All right, so this was the H4 level, right? So this was the H4 level just here. Price came back, retested. You also got the 200 EMA, which is this gray line here, just in the background, right? Nice rejection of the 200 EMA. You also have RSI making lower lows while price is making higher lows. Stochastics, lower lows, price, higher lows, right? So nice confluence here with this trade. I'll just show you the second and third entry as well, right? So all these entries were just basically scale-ins, right? So this was the second scale-in, right? So the reason why I took this scale-in is because we had this same old trend line, right? Same old longer term trend line, right? We had price pushing higher. I moved my stops to break even on this first trade, came back, retested, right? So I entered a second position here. It retested a longer term trend line in confluence with this shorter term steeper trend line that was broken, right? And then the last trade entry that I had on this pair was down here, which was this trade setup here. Just another scaling. So this one pretty simple. So we had price making the highs, it pushed higher, came back with rejection. So I entered another scaling here, right, with a very tight stop. I think this was like a 6 pip stop. All right, so all the other trades, so this first trade, the second trade, were both on break even, right? So I would only scale into a position if my original position is already on break even. So I'll just talk you through those 3 trade setups, right? Nice simple setups here. So we had the rejections, right? Stops just go beneath the wicks. Right, we entered here, we had the bullish, hidden bullish divergence. If I just bring up the RSI, right, so we had, you know, price making higher lows, yeah, while on the RSI, we quite clearly have price making lower lows, right? So entered here, price pushed into profit. I think I moved my stops to break even right around this level here, these highs, right? Then when price pulled back and showed me that confirmation with this broken trend line being retested together with my original longer term trend line, nice rejection here. I just figured, you know what, let me scale in. Because of these 2 losses that annoyed me, I wanted to make the most out of the move that I know I predicted was going to happen, right? So we had a nice rejection here at the level. I entered another position, and then when price broke up above again, right, this is kind of another wick off setup, that the spring setup that I've been testing, right? We have price kind of pushed lower, and we had the momentum move up, retest of the highs that started the move, and then we had that nice momentum move to the upside, right? So 3 trades all in one move. This worked out really nicely. The first trade netted around 5R, second trade netted around 7.5R, and then the third trade netted around 12.7R. So really nice setup here to close off the trading week. All right, so that was those trades. Next trade for me was AUDCAD. This was my trade. It's a HDS setup. HDS setup just means hidden divergence setup. Alright, price was also retesting the H4 zone, hidden divergence. TP was taken for 2R. Now, you'll notice on some trades, I leave my trades to run, and then some trades I'll set hard take profits, right? Whenever I set hard take profits, it's always based on what I believe the current market conditions are. If I think the market conditions are conducive to holding my trades, then I would hold my trades, right? And I'll set no TP. But if I believe the market's kind of chopping around, you know, but I still see some sort of ability for the trade to reach at least that 2R region, right? Then I'll just set a hard TP. Sometimes it's 2R, sometimes it's 1.5R, sometimes it's even 4R. But you know, it kind of depends on the market conditions, right? So this was the trade at the time of entry. All right. So no, wrong one. Sorry. AUDCAD, there we go. Hopefully this is it. All right, cool. So we have clear hidden divergence, right? So lower lows on the RSI, higher lows on price. We also have this zone. I don't have the zone drawn in on this sketch here, but you know, you could quite clearly see price retesting these highs here. And then this was the trade. This was the trade at the time of closing. Cool. So you see here, price just chopped about quite a bit. It hit my TP just before it kind of spiked down. I guess it would have probably taken me out here if I held the position, right? But if I remember correctly, this moved into some huge profits. Let's see. So that was AUDCAD. All right. So this was the trade setup here. All right. So just simple stuff. I have the zone drawn in now, right? Price was rejecting this level with together with that divergence that was happening, right? And then, you know, yes, price did kind of rocket into profit, but you know, based on my entry, if I held, I would have been stopped out here, right? I would have been, I mean, I may have put my stops on break even at this point, and then it would have come down and taken me out at break even anyway. But you know, I didn't catch an entry here. This would have been a nice entry as well, but that didn't happen. All right, so that was that trade. Moving on to EURAUD, right? So this was another HDS setup where I'd set a hard TP, right? It was a break and retest of the previous monthly lows in confluence with the H4 trend line, daily zone, and a 50% Fib retracement after I entered after rejection on the H1 time frame. During this session changeover, the spread spiked up and hit me out, taking me out. You know, hit my stop loss, right? And I just put a note here to self that I will re-enter the trade. So this was the trade at the time of entry. All right, so entered here after these rejections. I waited for price to push just a little bit lower to show that it wanted to go. Targeting just those previous lows for 2R, right? And then this was the trade at the time of closing. Right, so we had the price push higher, and then spreads on session changeover just, you know, spiked up almost to the pip, right? Almost to the pip, and took me out, right? And then lower here on my journal, you would see, so EURAUD. So I re-entered the trade here, right? This one here. This was the same trade, right? And this one actually did play out and recovered the losses together with actually hitting the TP, right? So same trade. Actually, I got a slightly better entry, but I still stuck to that 2R target, right? So that was EURAUD. Cool. So yeah, these were the two setups here, right? So we had this first one that obviously spiked up and took me out. But then as it pushed lower after that rejection, I just entered again, right? Same trade. Trade worked out nicely. Now, yes, I could have held the trade and it would have been in some ridiculous profits right now. And I would have moved my stops to break even, and would I? No. I mean, depending on spreads and stuff, but you know, trade would have still been valid, right? I did not take a re-entry trade here. I could have, but it's you know, I didn't for one reason or the next. I think I just wasn't at the chart at the time, or maybe I was already in the NZD trades, and I didn't want, because NZD and AUD are heavily correlated, so I didn't want to overexpose myself to, you know, those two currencies at the same time. All right, so that was a nice trade. I was very happy with that trade. The next trade for me was EURCAD, right? So this one was, the level was alerted to me by a friend of mine, Roger. He alerted me to the level. I mean, and it's good, right? So I got two trades here, one from another friend, Karen, and this one was from Roger. So it's always good to have friends in the same sort of, you know, have friends in the same trading environment who kind of have the same outlook as you do on the market. Because, you know, sometimes they would alert you to levels that you may not be, you know, paying attention to. And this was the case for this trade, right? So I had it drawn up, but I had no idea price got to the level. I don't know if my alerts just didn't go off, or I didn't set alerts. I can't remember. But anyway, so HDS set up again. Price was retesting the H4 zone, confluence of the trend line, hidden divergence, 200 EMA, and TP was hit for 2R, right? So this was the trade at the time of entry. Cool. All right, so nice clean setup, right? Had the price moving lower, had this nice impulsive move, came back up, loads of rejection at the level, and then just targeting, I think I was just targeting these previous lows here, right? That would have been my 2R TP. And then this was the trade at the time of closing. Cool, so there you go. After all the rejection of the level, nice fib confluence. And then we had a drop I was looking for, right? And TP was hit. So I'll just talk you through the trade quickly on EURCAD. Right, so here, right, so you see I did have an alert, right? I did have an alert, but I don't know why it didn't get triggered. Anyway, I've been having some issues with these trading view alerts recently. All right, so yeah, so entered after these rejections here. Trend line obviously only came into place afterwards, after these highs were confirmed, and we had a nice move lower. Alright, so yes, if I held the trade maybe to that original TP that I had drawn up, right, that 3R level, yes, TPs would have been hit. But as I said before, because of the way price was, you know, the market environment at the time, I figured 2R was the safest setup for me. And again, right, similar to the odd EURAUD trade, yes, I could have probably held the trade, but you know, I would have been taken out on break even, because I would have moved my stops once it hit these original lows. I'd have moved my stops to break even, and I would have been taken out here on break even. I typically don't like to trade a level more than once, right? So yes, this could have been a second entry, but I don't like to trade you know, two touches of the level. I like to get the first touch of the level. So I wouldn't have taken this trade anyway, but that would have been a nice trade as well. All right. So just moving on to, so we already covered the EURAUD, we covered the NZDs. All right, so GBPJPY. All right, so so I've got three yellow highlighted trades, right? Out of all the three, this one is by far the most annoying, right? So this was my trade, break and retest, H4 level, right? Trade entered on the 5-minute time frame, and then trade was stopped out due to spreads, right? But it never really stopped out on my trading view platform, which is the same broker that I use for trading, right? So I just have here annoying. So this was the trade here at the time of entry. Cool. So, well, I don't have the level drawn in, but yeah, there's a level in here. right? Nice retest, and there was some rejection, right? And then here was the trade at the time of, well, I guess the time I got stopped out, not the time of closing, but yeah. So yeah, this is where I got stopped out, right? So I'll just jump to the chart and talk through this trade as well. So yeah, this trade here. So you can quite clearly see, I'll just jump to the 5-minute time frame. All right, so actually before I do that, sorry. So we have the level, right? Because I'm trading off of the broken level, right? So we have these highs that were formed, price came back, retested it. Now, you know, I just said that I don't really trade 2 touches of a level, right? But you could see here, there is an occasion at which I would do this, right? If I see price spike beneath the level, right? So we had the respect of the level, right? This was the first touch, so this would have been an initial trade right here, right? But I didn't take this trade, and price pushed up, made a higher high, right? And then came down and spiked beneath the level. Whenever I see this, I always look for, if price is going to continue, then it will continue, right? It will continue to drop. But if the bullish momentum is still there, then more than likely price will spike back above the level, right? And this is, some people call it a fake out. But I've been studying, as I said, the Wyckoff schematics and the spring. This would have been a spring setup right here, right? So spiked down, took out some stops, broke back above, came and retested the level, and then we went, right? So I'll just show you here. I mean, it did come very, very close to my stop loss, but it never really hit my stop, right? So right there, you can see right on that candle, just here. Came very close to the stop loss, but it didn't actually get there. But I was stopped out on all my trading platforms. I did have multiple times to re-enter, like here, you know, around these levels here. But after this happened, and in the manner that it did happen, it just kind of annoyed me. So I just said, you know what, let me just leave this pair alone. And you know, it worked out to be a very, very, very nice trade. So it's a little bit unfortunate. It would have been currently, well, this was my TP, right? So the TP was 25R, but it's currently sitting in just about 22R, right? But you know, it is what it is. Just, you know, dust myself off and move on, right? I think the last trade for me for the week was this setup here, EURUSD. So another friend of mine, Karen, he alerted me to the level. All right, so it's a break of a longer term trend line. Trend was showing possible reversal signs, entered after the break and retest of a long term trend line and the retest of a broken zone. This trade did break my trading rules purely because it was a counter trend trade, and I'm not supposed to be trading against the trend. But I did in this instance, right? I built a case for myself to convince myself the trend was going to reverse. So, you know, I have it highlighted in red. I did break my rules. It wasn't a valid trade for me. I didn't manage the trade correctly. So, you know, I broke a bunch of rules here on this trade, right? It's a counter trend trade, lack of confirmation, and this isn't a trade I should have taken, right? So this was a trade at the time of entry. All right, so we had, well, I'll just show it to you on the actual chart, right? But this was a trade at the time of entry. And then this was the trade when it stopped me out. All right, so it just kind of pushed higher and kept going, right? So I'll just jump to EURUSD quickly. All right, so we had on EURUSD, on the daily time frame, we had this nice longer term trend line, right? Nice big long-term trend line, right? We had one fake out here, and then this was the second break. So when I saw the second break, I thought to myself, you know what? If a trend line is broken twice for me, then the trend line is no longer valid, or price is going to reverse, right? So this was the trend line here that I was looking at. So once it broke, came up, and it showed rejection of this zone, right? These lows here together with the trend line, and then we had this bearish engulfing candle. I said, all right, cool, let me go ahead and take a short here, right? But as you can see, it never really went into profit, right? It just kind of reversed and went against me. There was a get out of jail get out of jail card here. Well, not really. It's more of a, if this happens, exit the trade, right? So I connected this high together with this high, the rejection high, and just pulled my trend line a little bit further into the future. And then I said, kind of, if this trend line was to be broken, then I would close the trade off, right? And that break happened on this candle here. So I really should have closed the trade off on 0.5% loss, right? Or half of an hour. But I wasn't at the computer and I wasn't at home, right? And by the time I got home, price was at this level, right? So price pushed even higher, and it almost got to my stop, right? And I just said to myself, you know what? At this point, it's just worth leaving the trade. If it comes back to break even, then I'll close off on break even. Or if it just pushes up higher and takes me out, then fine, you know, I'll just count it as a lesson, right? And that's what happened, right? It kind of pushed a little bit lower, but then it just made the move, the bullish move. So, you know, that was a poor trade all around for me, by my rules, right? And that was pretty much it, right? So, you know, a really good trading week for me. Let's have a look. So this was week 3. You know, net pips of 351 pips for the first TP positions, and the second positions were all at 400 pips. A massive 30R, right? So really nice return on investment, and together with week 1 as well, right? Because I just closed off AUDUSD. That brought week 1 trades up to 32R return on investment, which, I mean, grand total for the month is like 61, which is something I have never ever seen in my trading. I've never seen that before. So, you know, that kind of goes to show, right? Like, me focusing a lot on trying to get tighter stops, because like in my trading, getting the direction right isn't that difficult for me to do. Like, I can get the direction right, not all the time, but I've got a way of figuring it out enough, right? But direction is one thing and entry is another, right? And you know, by fine-tuning my entries just a little bit, like working over the last couple of months, studying different strategies and studying different entry mechanisms and stuff, I was able to produce trades with some very tight stops. And you know, they wouldn't work out every single time, as you can see, right? I do pick up quite a few losses, whether it's big stops or small stops. You know, I do pick up quite a few losses, but the returns on the winning trades are way far surpass the losses that I'd pick up, right? So I'm really happy with the progress I'm making so far. And you know, like I say, right, long may it continue. Even though I did pick up 5 losses this week, truth be told, only one of those losses really should have happened, right? This was a all-out loss, right? And I could have probably done it with a break even on this one if I was at the computer. This loss here, I broke my rules, so I really should not have taken that trade. The yellow highlighted trades that were all losers, these two were just pure market manipulation, right? And well, this one kind of is a lesson learned, right? I mean, it did stop me out, but you know, under on TradingView together with MT4 should be the same, and in this case it wasn't, so it was slightly annoying, but you know, it is what it is. Anyway, enough moaning. I was very happy with my trading week. phenomenal week, and it's shaping up to be, again, a really good month for me. As usual, if you made it this far, thank you for watching. Obviously, if you like what you see, feel free to subscribe and join me on this trading journey of mine. All right, I'll catch you guys tomorrow in the analysis video.